Kia ora, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today, especially to those of you who have travelled from outside of Auckland. Now, if you wouldn't mind coming a little closer, making yourself comfortable and turning off your phones, we're going to get things underway. And please also be mindful of the cameras at the front here because we are live streaming this event. Now, my name is Kate King and I'm going to be walking you through everything this afternoon. It's really a very easy job because, as we like to do in broadcasting, we're going to kick things off and let the pictures tell the story. An absolute smorgasbord of sports there, showcasing some of our many talented athletes that we have out there. And now some of the eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted a little logo there and a big old one behind me here and have an inkling of what we're all here for today. But as I understand it, a lot of you out there have also played a big part in what we're celebrating. Every day, thousands of Kiwis take to the pool, the field, the court, the ring, the rink, I could go on, to participate in sports that matter to them, sports that they're really passionate about. And today we want to take that to the next level. See what I did there? Now, today is all about you, about your sports, and about being part of a groundbreaking grassroots sport initiative. So it gives me great pleasure to invite the CEO of Sky, Martin Stewart, on stage to tell you a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Kate, and hello, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge all of the CEOs, presidents, chairs, directors, GMs, and athletes who are here today, and of course, Rob Waddell, who will be saying a few words next. I'm thrilled to be here with you today to celebrate an exciting milestone for sport in New Zealand. Today, we launch Sky Sport Next, the platform that will showcase over 50 sports codes for Kiwis. The sports have come together as the New Zealand Sport Collective under Rob's leadership, and we'll be streaming and broadcasting them on the Sky Sport Next YouTube channel, on our Sky Sport platform, and free to air on Prime. I'm going to stop there for a moment because, as Kate said, we're all about TV, so let's do it the way we do it best. Welcome to Sky Sport Next, our new initiative supporting grassroots sport and rising talent across New Zealand. We're proud to be investing in Sky Sport Next to give over 50 sports a chance to be seen and to grow.
Through Sky Sport Next, these athletes and their sports have the chance to tell their story.
Sky Sport Next is a fantastic opportunity for all of the sports codes to be a one-stop shop where everybody can view it.
Through Sky Sport Next, thousands of local sporting events will be live streamed free for all New Zealanders to watch on our YouTube channel. Some content will also be broadcast on TV with Sky Sport, our streaming service Sky Sport Now, and our free-to-air channel Prime.
This is massive for our fans because there's been a cry out for quality streaming or content from our sport.
New Zealanders are sports fans. They love sport. They often have a favourite sport, but they generally also love other sports. So it's a great opportunity to bring more sports to more New Zealanders.
As the home of sport in New Zealand, we're about the whole game. which means all levels of sport, not just the elite.
In particular, Sky Sport Next is going to shine a spotlight on Olympic pathway sports such as athletics, gymnastics and swimming, national team home games not currently on Sky, and national championships across all grades.
Sky Sport Next is a tangible way that we at Sky can give back to our communities.
I believe that if showing equal amount of boxing with women and men, some women might go, hey, she can do it, so I'm going to give it a go too.
Having the game so accessible is good for our volunteers and all the coaches and players around New Zealand.
Together, our goal is to significantly grow the reach and engagement of New Zealand sports. We want to inspire more Kiwis to play sport.
Those peoples and our sport connect so well together. Our communities align, and softball provides absolute pathways for talented young kids from all walks of life.
We are thrilled to be working with Rob Waddell and the New Zealand Sport Collective to deliver this groundbreaking broadcast partnership.
Sky's putting sport in the hands of Kiwis. It's an incredible step towards the growth and sustainability of New Zealand sport.
Sky Sport Next have provided enormous opportunities for people to get off their butts and get back out onto the field.
This is what Sky is about, being the home of sport for all New Zealanders with the best local, national and international sports. I'm very proud for this. I'm very proud of this initiative. I'm very excited about it. As I said at the end of that clip, Sky is the home of sport in New Zealand, and this is what we're all about. We're committed to the whole game, which means from grassroots levels all the way through to the elite, and Sky Sport Next brings that approach and commitment to life in a much larger and much more impactful way. We're investing in this programme to give over 50 Kiwi sports a chance to be seen and to grow. And I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Rob Waddell, who has worked to bring the New Zealand Sport Collective together. Rob noticed our efforts in the grassroots space a little earlier this year, and he approached me with the idea of Sky and the collective working together. And we jumped at that chance, and we're very pleased that we were able to create Sky Sport Next. It's been a pleasure, Rob, working with you and your team. I know that our side has enjoyed bringing this to life. I think that many of you who are in the room here today, we see you now as part of the Sky family, and we'd like to extend a big welcome to you. We'd like to work with you to make sure that the next generations of athletes, the next big sports, all have a chance to grow and be seen. And I wish you all the best, and I look forward to being on the journey with you. And now, Rob Waddell.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, family and friends. Thank you all very much for coming along this afternoon. I know how busy everyone is, so it's a real pleasure to share this special announcement all with you in the room on what we've achieved together. I want to start by sharing with you some of the journey on what it's taken to get here. The genesis of the idea started with the work that my company, Waddell Associates, has been doing in New Zealand sport. WA began 6 years ago off the back of helping sport and other not-for-profits with the great work that they're all trying to achieve. We're a small team, and we want to do anything and everything we possibly can to help sport in New Zealand. Over the last few years, we've been really fortunate to work with a number of national sports organisations to support their commercial delivery, including broadcast rights, sponsorships, event and community programs. There's been several people, some who are represented in the room here today, with the likes of Sir Owen Glenn, Mitch and Kate Plaw, Sir Eon and Lady Edgar, who have given greatly to help improve New Zealand sport, along with many others. Personally, I've found their philanthropy and their giving really motivating, and the attitude and kindness has sparked the work that we've tried to do along with others. Along the way, we've realised just how important sport is to New Zealanders. We're not the biggest nation in the world, politically or economically, so sports here is a great deal about who we are and how we actually present ourselves to the world. We know that sport massively benefits the mental well-being of those that are actively involved and participating, as well as their physical health. The physical research tells us that people that play sport for 2.5 hours per week are 51% more likely to report better mental health. There are already so many wonderful initiatives in this area also happening from Sport New Zealand and many other organisations, and we're looking forward to working with them and being really closely aligned. Over the years, New Zealand sport has worked together to achieve some phenomenal performances. at the pinnacle competition events at what we compete in. Now is the chance to do that commercially. More and more sports are getting into their own live streaming and content creation, and the viewer numbers have become really compelling, and even more so when you bring them all together. So I'm very proud today to formally announce the establishment of the New Zealand Sport Collective, which is a group of more than 50 national sports organisations and rights holders. It's a remarkable achievement for so many of us in the room here today. A real privilege for me here this afternoon as I get to thank all of those that have made it possible. We are here today because of Sky Sport and their incredible leadership team. Martin Stewart, where do we begin? A very big thank you for what you have just done and created for New Zealand sport. I know when we spoke at the beginning, you wanted people to come to New Zealand and be amazed by what was available and what we had created in sport. I think we can proudly say that's what's been achieved over the last year. We loved working with your team. Huge thanks to Catherine Oliver, Tex Texera, Chris Major, Johnny Errington, Kerry Felvin, Matt Quinn, Brian Hitchcock, Sophie Maloney, Lakshman Rajadurai, and so many more. And I know I've missed one or two others, and we're just so proud to work with you all. You've played a really critical role in making this happen. I hope you all feel very, very proud. With the funding you've given sports, where previously there was nothing, it will truly lift their reach and engagement in the stories they have to tell. It's no coincidence that we're here before the women's tall fern basketball game tonight. There's been a real gap in women's sport, and you've risen to that challenge and turned it on its head. The Tall Ferns will play tonight their first home series for the first time in 15 years, and you have played an absolutely critical role in making that happen. Yay. Next round of thank yous in particular to my team, Fiona Benefield, Kat Irving, Richard Howarth, Hannah-Ray Seifert, George Fisher and Eleanor Bellum. Thank you for the crazy hours, all the time you've invested in this over the years, your belief in the project, and I hope you all feel really proud of what we've created. A special thanks to Ashton Welsh for your massive contribution. Simpson Grierson have been amazing and so supportive, and Ashton's been completely flooded with workload. I cannot forget others such as Andrew Every, Ricky Tairoa, Matt Beater and Earl Gray for all their work along the way as well. Personally, it's been a massive investment to achieve this great outcome, financially, physically and emotionally. I want to thank my wife and number one investor, Sonia, for supporting me and the business all the way through this, but most importantly for what she's done at home to look after our great little family. Well, I've been completely tunnel visioned for the last 5 years in chasing this dream. A very genuine thank you for everything she's done. So this is a really exciting time for all of us that are here today. Thank you to our stakeholders and to Sport New Zealand, High Performance Sport New Zealand and School Sport NZ. We're really looking forward to working more closely with you in the future. And lastly, we cannot thank our sports enough. Thank you very much, all of you in the room and further, for your trust in the project, for coming out today to show your support. There has been a huge amount of time invested on your end and patience, and it's a wonderful example of Kiwi initiative and work ethic, creating something far better together. Thanks to Sky Sport Next, there'll now be a sporting hero for every young Kiwi, no matter whether they're into cycling, athletics, gymnastics, climbing, inline hockey, table tennis or more. It will truly provide an amazing pathway for people to understand and become more involved in sport, and I'm really excited by what we're all going to achieve together. Thank you very much. On that note, I'd like to ask Martin Stewart to come on stage and receive a small token of our appreciation and part of all the sports involved with the New Zealand Sport Collective. Thank you, Martin. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm supposed to hand back to Kate. Oh, Kate.
I'm here, don't worry. I think it's fairly obvious that this means a lot to all parties here, so thank you very much to Martin and Rob, and clearly thank you to Sonia as well, according to Rob. Now, you heard from some of those athletes in the video that Martin referred to before, but there's nothing better, we say at Sky Sport News, than a live interview. So we have some available to speak to here today, and we're going to get them to come up front. We have Sarah Hay from climbing. We also have, hopefully, if the traffic, yes, Matt Lewis from water polo, and we have Chris Curran from skateboarding. If you could all BYO chair and just bring it a little bit in front here, and we'll have a bit of a chat. We also, last but not least, Ricky Swinell is somewhere here. There she is. Familiar face to a lot of you in this room, I'm sure. Commentator and sports journalist extraordinaire. All right, I'll jump down here.
Oh, you have to BYO your chair too.
Yeah, I do. It's tough. Yeah, it's a tough old life. Okay. Well, since you're closest to me, Sarah, if you'd just like to grab that microphone, thank you very much. Let's start with why you got into climbing and what it means to you.
Well, for me, climbing started outdoors. It's featured here as an indoor competitive sport, but it's very much a lifestyle for a lot of people as well. I started outdoor climbing with a group of friends. I found an indoor climbing gym. I started coaching at the local gym. My kids were going to some competitions, so I decided to give it a go as well, and it kind of went from there. So I've been competitive climbing for about 10 years and outdoor climbing throughout that period as well. And earlier this year was able to open a climbing gym with my business partner as well, so moving into helping develop the climbing as a sport and coaching some youth that are coming through.
Congratulations on that. That's a huge achievement.
Thank you.
I wonder then how hard it has been for you over the 12, 14 years that you've been climbing to break through and be recognised as a climber.
Yeah, it has been a challenge. It's quite a new sport competitively, so there's not very much coaching available or anyone who's really specialising in climbing coaching. There's a bit of general sport coaching out there that we can apply to climbing as general principles, but most of when I was competing, it was YouTube videos and books and talking to people and trying to find the athletes out there that are climbing competitively overseas and gaining inspiration from the training programs they're doing, and then just sort of knuckling down at the local gym and giving all sorts of different kinds of things a go and setting yourself goals and things like that. So it's changing a lot now, especially with the exposure and new facilities becoming available. There's a few more coaches out there that are interested in taking that as a pathway, and it's a pretty exciting time for climbing and for the next generation coming through.
What sort of costs are involved with a sport like climbing, and what will a program like Sky Sport Next do for climbing?
There's a few costs involved, like any sport, I guess. The gear, it's really shoes, a harness, chalk. There's not that much involved with that, but you do run through them quite quickly, so any kind of gear support is always good. In terms of the exposure that this will give climbing, it will hopefully attract more funding opportunities for some of our athletes. We can only climb in a facility. We can't just go down the road or go to a local gym. It's very facility focused. So having some more funding available to attend these facilities and then train up more coaches and run coaching workshops and compete at regional and national competition and then hopefully international competition to gain that experience as well. So I think it's going to be really good for climbing.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind passing the microphone down, we might as well go down in order. Matt, traffic's a little bit nasty out there, isn't it?
Oh, coming from out south as well is shocking.
Well, thank you for getting here. We all appreciate it. Now, you've played water polo in a lot of different countries: Brazil, Spain, Scotland. I could go on for a long time, I think. Can you enlighten us on what your long-term goals are in the sport?
Probably for me it would be qualifying for Olympics, and that's something that New Zealand water polo's never done before. We have to go through Australia, and they're one of the world's best, so it's obviously pretty hard. So definitely long term will be qualifying for that, because I'm getting older now, so need to try and tick that off. But yeah, definitely Olympics.
Still baby face though, isn't he? We have actually seen participation numbers in water polo steadily increase over the last few years, and I wonder who your role models are and how important it is to have role models sort of be visible in the sport like water polo.
Yeah, obviously a little youngster going to all the senior games, going and watching them, so had quite a few growing up and seeing all the senior New Zealand players as well, the likes of Lockie Tyson, Andy Seabrath, all those kind of guys. Massive to have a role model as a younger guy, just seeing how they approach the game, their work ethic, how they behave in training, all that. It's so crucial to all the younger guys coming through, just to set the standard for them. So yeah, definitely important to be having role models as a little youngster. Yeah.
And what would it mean for you to have your family and friends be able to watch you do your thing?
Yeah, massive. I mean, obviously they've been such a big supporter for me growing up, and it's user pay. Obviously, so mum and dad have helped me a lot. So to see the sport actually getting a bit of attention and recognition around the country, I think it would be huge for them as well to see such an awesome sport get a bit of recognition as well. So yeah, it would be awesome to be streamed across the whole nation and even globally. Yeah.
Well, we'd certainly like to see him, wouldn't we, in action? Could you pass it on down to Chris for us? Thank you. There we go. You ready, Chris?
Yes, I am.
Now, for the first time, skateboarding is going to be at the Olympics this year. And I wonder, as a young boy growing up, whether you ever thought that was going to be a possibility.
I think there's always been visions of the X Games and other competitions where they were the pinnacle event. The more recent, I guess, last 10 years, the discussion has been, should it be in the Olympics, should it not? And people sit on both sides of the fence at this stage. I think it's a really great platform for people to actually strive to something, to have a national team that they can try to become some part of. For the younger kids, it actually gives them a pathway to do something more mainstream in skateboarding, because typically it's more the industry, and becoming a professional might mean you just skateboard, and it just is more of an athlete than just being a skateboarder. Yeah.
And how do you think a program like Sky Sport Next will help the sport like skateboarding?
It's going to be really great. We've always had a little bit of international skateboarding visible, like the likes of Tony Hawk or somebody else that you may have seen. Growing up as a kid, there was a couple of magazines that you may have been able to see a skateboarder in. You might have seen them at the skate park, but it's now going to be a chance for kids to actually see what people are doing, see how hard they are pushing themselves, get a little bit of the history of why they might be doing something, and it's going to be a really big positive piece for skateboarding. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the level of our skateboarders in New Zealand, what the skills like out there?
So we've got a couple of skateboarders that are actually based in Australia at this stage, and they are both park skateboarders. They have been to a couple of the international events for season 1 for Olympic qualification. We're looking to get them to a few more events. Again, we haven't quite fit into any of the governance structures to get that government funding that we need yet. So that's where this chance to actually work with a media partner and going private has been a really great opportunity for us to try to help our athletes go through. We've got a few street skaters who have been to the Street League competition in LA, which is, I think, the first time a New Zealander's really been to any of those events. It's really amazing.
Good to hear. Also, I don't know if you're growing that moustache for Movember, but you're doing a very good job.
No, this is actually a small one. I used to be the New Zealand moustache champion a few years ago, so it used to be a much bigger affair. Yeah.
All right, well, if you wouldn't mind passing that down to Ricky Swinell there.
You
don't know how you're going to follow that?
No, you should have dropped the mic. Do you sure you want to give me a mic?
I do. It's always good to have you behind a mic, Ricky. You know what it's like to break ground. You were the first play-by-play commentator, female commentator for Super Rugby. And I just wonder, what do you think it is about New Zealanders which makes them want to be the best in the world?
Geez, Kate. Gosh, there's probably far smarter people who've studied these things and actually have an answer to a question like that. But I guess possibly it's partly our position in the world. We are a long way from everything, so we have to be innovative. We have to think outside the square. We either have to do it ourselves here and find a way, or alternatively we pack our bags and we go off overseas and we see what's out there. I think another thing though is that our communities are very strong, be it in an arts community or in this case obviously a sports community, and then your sport within that wider one, and we can see it all here with everyone today. And you've got to have your community, you've got to have your people behind you, your cheerleaders. I mean, I've got like an army of cheerleaders behind me who believe that I can do what I do, and I'm sure everybody in this room has that too, and I think that's what makes us strong and makes us believe that yeah, we can go out and do anything and take on the world from where we are.
Seems like you can do anything, because last week or a week or two ago you were actually commentating weightlifting. What did you learn from that experience?
Oh, it was the best. I had so much fun. It's so cool to see the weightlifting crew here today. Commentary is a funny thing because no one really teaches you how to do it. There are a few do's and don'ts and rules, I guess, that you follow, but you kind of wing it a bit. I probably shouldn't say that with the bosses in the room, but you do. You sort of muddle along as you go. So I guess from that perspective, it was good to know the skills from rugby or netball or whatever could transfer over to a sport like weightlifting that I was learning. But again, what I learned from that, and it goes back to the community, the weightlifting community, if that is an example of what we have among these sports here, then our sport is in very good stead because, I mean, as an example, there was a guy there from Otago, Callan Helms is his name, he coached in every single session and then competed himself in the last session. You would compete and then somebody would be next to me and they'd be loading the bar. Cam McTaggart, who's one of our great Olympic hopes, he did a stint on the PA. You know, Richie Patterson did everything, I think down to cooking the pies possibly. So, and that's the strength of our sports and our communities. And I think that's certainly what I was there in full view in weightlifting, and it is an example of what this can show.
So everyone's just chipping in, aren't they?
Yeah, like absolutely. Yeah.
You've done netball, you've done rugby, you've done cricket, you've done so many different sports, and I wonder in those discussions with the athletes that you've been in touch with, what they have said to you would help them achieve their goals.
Money. So they don't have to go to the bank of mum and dad all the time, and I mean that's a very basic way to say it, but funding is huge, and so something like this opens these sports and these athletes up to being seen, and that's a really, really big thing. If that can show a sponsor, look what I've got, and also show the country. You know, you don't, I guess athletes, but like broadcasters, you don't do it without wanting an audience. You want to be seen, you want to share your sport, and that's what I've certainly learned around some of the smaller sports that. A good story is a good story. It doesn't matter if it's about boat and barrett or badminton or water polo or skateboarding. A good story well told will resonate, and that's what these sports get this opportunity and want this opportunity to do, to be able to show, to let everybody else see what they see about their sport. And so I think, if they can open doors in that way to show their stories, share their sport, share their stories, and hopefully get some money in the bank as well along the way, that would be a pretty good start.
A little bit of self-promotion here. If any of you out there have a good story, come to Sky Sport News. We are more than happy to tell it as well.
Or a freelancer.
And finally, Ricky, just one question Martin touched on as well about making sure that females are equally represented in New Zealand and equally as seen. As someone who has shattered a glass ceiling in that respect, how do you think we're going at the moment?
Ooh, we're getting there. I think in terms of our media coverage, this is a massive step. A lot of mainstream is still a bit behind the eight ball. That's a polite way of saying it. But we are getting there, and I think what we're seeing within the sports themselves, which is hugely important, is that your men's teams and your women's teams, or your male and your female athletes, are all treated as equally as you can through social media and all of that. If you're posting about your men, you're posting about your women, all of that side of it. So we are getting there, absolutely. I think England is setting a really good example with some of the stuff they are doing in the media side of things in particular. But we've certainly made progress, but it's still very glacial at times.
Well, I think that about does it. Can you please put your hands together for Sarah, Chris, Matt and Ricky? Yeah, please take your chairs. So while that wraps everything from us here today, it's certainly not the only thing happening tonight. You may be able to hear it's starting to kick off behind you. If you are staying for the basketball, I've been asked if you could please go up to the white desk here and get your ticket. And remember, our Tall Ferns, they, as Rob said, haven't had a home series here in 15 years. They haven't been in action here in New Zealand in 4 years. And I spoke to them earlier this week, Kalani Purcell, who was one of the youngest ever Tall Ferns captains. She is very excited about playing in front of all of you guys. So if you have the opportunity to see them, please go and do that. But from all of us at the Sport Collective and at Sky, thank you so much for your time and for your efforts in all of your individual sports. Thank you.
Welcome to Sky Sport.
our new initiative supporting grassroots sport and rising talent across New Zealand. We're proud to be investing in Sky Sport Next to give over 50 sports a chance to be seen and to grow.
Through Sky Sport Next, these athletes and their sports have the chance to tell their story.
Sky Sport Next is a fantastic opportunity for all of the sports codes to be a one-stop shop where everybody can view it.
Through Sky Sport Next, thousands of local sporting events will be live streamed free for all New Zealanders to watch on our YouTube channel. Some content will also be broadcast on TV with Sky Sport, our streaming service Sky Sport Now, and our free-to-air channel Prime.
This is massive for our fans because there's been a cry out for quality streaming or content from our sport.
New Zealanders are sports fans. They love sport. They often have a favourite sport, but they generally also love other sports. So it's a great opportunity to bring more sports to more New Zealanders.
As the home of sport in New Zealand, we're about the whole game, which means all levels of sport, not just the elite.
In particular, Sky Sport Next is going to shine a spotlight on Olympic pathway sports such as athletics, gymnastics and swimming, national team home games not currently on Sky, and national championships across all grades.
Sky Sport Next is a tangible way that we at Sky can give back to our communities.
I believe that if showing equal amount of boxing with women and men, some women might go, hey, she can do it, so I'm going to give it a go too.
Having the game so accessible is good for our volunteers and all the coaches and players around New Zealand.
Together, our goal is to significantly grow the reach and engagement of New Zealand sports. We want to inspire more Kiwis to play sport.
Those peoples and our sport connect so well together. Our communities align and SOPL provides absolute pathways for talented young kids from all walks of life.
We are thrilled to be working with Rob Waddell and the New Zealand Sport Collective to deliver this groundbreaking broadcast partnership.
Sky's putting sport in the hands of Kiwis. It's an incredible step towards the growth and sustainability of New Zealand sport.
Sky Sport Next have provided enormous opportunities for people to get off their butts and get back out onto the field.
This is what Sky is about, being the home of sport for all New Zealanders with the best local, national and international sport.